My name is Jane Richards, and I'm a member of the Nashua Historical Society and a board member. Welcome to our talk this evening. I'm so happy to have Dr. Lay. I'd like to remind everybody that we have a meeting next in November 6th, and that will be New Hampshire's contra and square dancing traditions. Also, we have a millinery exhibit. It's in process in the dining room. You'll see it when we have refreshments. Also, was it 2 Saturdays ago? We had this very unusual auction. We auctioned off Nashua triangle manhole covers. This is our second auction. This auction got us about $1,100. Yep. Wow. And all total, we have $3,100 towards a project soon that will be announced soon. I would like to have everybody welcome Dr. Adrian J.
I'm very honored that the Historical Society, and especially Rudy Slozak here, who called me about 13 months ago to invite me here. I'm very honored that the Society invited me to give a history of my dad's practice, which started 73 years ago today. Actually, it was July. And I see a lot of faces here that remind me of the past. Some of the faces here, that some of the assistants that were with my dad, and I see Claudia. And I look back, I see Paul Willett back there. Yes, his wife. And I'm very pleased everyone could come. And I want to introduce my daughter Tara, Dr. Tara Vogel, who is my partner. And I work for her now. She's the third generation. My dad was born in 1905. You can switch over the picture.
Would you like me to?
Yeah, I'll draw these lights down so you can see that over here. Yeah, he was born in 1905. Yep. And this is him right here. He's one of 9 children. And he was the only one in his family who actually finished high school. And he went to UNH to get his pre-dental. And then went on, this was in 1929, he went on to Georgetown University School of Dentistry and graduated in 1933, and that's his graduation picture.
What's he got on his feet?
You know, we find a lot of pictures we don't know what it had to do with something. Maybe it was hazing at the time. But now this is the mystery picture. We could not figure out what that was. When he graduated in '33, he went on to work at the district jail in Washington, D.C., and he was on the staff there. And as a member of the staff, he was called upon to witness something like 7 or 9 electrocutions. And this affected him a lot. But you know, I didn't know this. I knew that, you know, he started his practice in '34. I have here the actual bill of sale for his dental equipment. And this picture right here is from the district jail. We think this is a child, looks like a child. We don't know if it's a child or a child of a prisoner, but this was at the district jail in Washington, D.C. At the end of that year, he came to Nashua. And he borrowed $590 so he could get a down payment to buy his dental equipment, which came to close to $3,000. Now in those days, the average salary in Nashua for a worker was about $5 a week. Now you start thinking that's a lot of money to raise, you know, to buy dental equipment. Now his first office was right here on the Nelson block, and we're trying to figure out what this street is over here. We can't figure that out, but there was no, it's not Temple. No, it's not Temple.
Where's the Nelson?
Temple Street was where Spears was located. And his office was right here. Go back. His office was right here, and that's his name in here, Adrian J. Levesque, Senior Dentist. So this is a picture of him across the street in front of Woolworths. probably at lunch.
I'm really happy.
Now, in the office, and here's this, you can see the sign right here. In the office, you can see he's got the old dental equipment. Now, this dental equipment was still in his new office when I came into practice. That thing still worked. The drill, right here, okay, electric drill, and he works standing up.
No gloves.
No gloves. And notice this cabinet, which I wish I still had this cabinet, but it went out of the trash at one point. Here's another picture, the same place, different angle. Now, back in let's say, I think it was, okay, in 44. Now, he practiced there from 34 to 44. And I believe Dr. Duma practiced in the same place after he left. Is that true, Paul?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. Now, in 1944, he moved to 5 Main Street. Now, 5 Main Street was owned by my maternal grandfather. And so this was a perfect place. He moved there. And in 1950, we have no pictures of this office, inside this office. But I remember that the walls were these glass bricks. And that was and I think you remember too, and we had, that was the thing in those days. You put glass bricks up so that you couldn't see what was going on in the other operatory, but the light would shine through. You know, it was something.
And this is where Collins Flowers is now.
Right.
Yeah. Dr. Bednar was in there at one point. There was
There was an ice cream parlor.
an ice cream parlor. Yeah. Dr. LaValle practiced there for a time, and also there was an oral surgery practice there. I have his name someplace. So in '53, he moved to 12 Amber Street. Now, this building was owned, and I just found out there was a restaurant in here at one time. This building was owned by Dr. DeNicola, who was a pediatrician. And Dr. DeNicola gave up his practice here and went into this part of the building. My dad took over this whole section right here. And in the back was Dr. Buttrick and
Bob O'Neill.
Paul O'Neill, yeah, Bob O'Neill was there, and also Dr. Booley. Paul Booley was there, the optometrist. We had a chance to see quite a bit of these guys, because I worked in there too.
Still there.
Now, this lady here, I believe, was Charlotte Durrett. Do you remember her?
Yeah.
I know her brother very well. He owned a camera shop in Manchester, Jerry Durrett. He just retired and sold his business. You can see, this is a hygienist. He had actually, I believe he was the first one in Nashua to have a hygienist. I'm not completely sure about that, but I believe he was. This is the same equipment that he had at 100 Main Street and at 5 Main Street. This is Blanche. I don't know who this is. I'm still hoping that Claudia might know this, or Priscilla. No, we don't know who this is, but this was an assistant. Go ahead. Here's Blanche at the front desk, and my dad working. Now you can see they work standing up, no gloves, no masks. And you can see the cabinet right here. This is the same cabinet. You see the little legs on the cabinet? This is the same cabinet that was in 100 Main Street back in 1934, which was brand new at that time. Okay, go ahead. And here's my dad in his private office. Now, my sister graduated around 1980, I believe, was it? 63? 63. From Forsyth Dental Hygiene School, and she practiced here before she got married. And here is a group picture of some of the people at that time. Ruth Grabo, okay, okay. This was Lorraine Jetty, yeah. And this was Lynn Labrie, yeah, Claudia Lassard at the time. And I believe this is let's see, Blanche's mother. I think this is Blanche's mother. Right, Priscilla?
Yes.
But I don't see
It is.
Blanche
It looks
here,
like
unless Blanche was just away at that time, but we don't even know what this party was. Do you remember, Ruth?
You didn't mention the beautiful woman in the black dress.
I said that was Priscilla. Okay, now, go back, and now in 1966, I came in the picture. I was a second generation dentist before Tara was the third. Go back. This is my reception room. We thought we would design it like, something up to date, and it was at the time. We had grass cloth wallpaper. Go ahead. Now, this is my brand new equipment. In dental school, I didn't learn how to work sitting down, but I decided I would do it because I didn't want to have a bad back. So I bought this equipment. I had a cuspidor, which I got rid of very shortly thereafter, and a nice rid of chairs. And notice the X-ray machine. I had one in the wall, and there were two operatories that are identical.
And we still have that.
And we still have that X-ray machine.
We
And it still works very well.
Yeah, it's all digital.
It's all digital now. Yeah. Okay, now this is the picture that was taken in 1966 around Christmas time. Now, in this picture, I see Priscilla, and I see Lorraine Jetty, and there's my dad, and this is my sister Janet, who was the hygienist. This is my brother Bob, who was home for Christmas. Now, Bob went on to become a dentist and an oral surgeon, and he practiced in Maryland for 10 years, and then he came to Nashua in 1980. He practiced there for 22 years. He retired in '02 and moved to Las Vegas, and after 4 years of not working, got very bored and went back to work, and he's now the head oral surgeon at the brand new Veterans Hospital in Las Vegas, Nevada. And he works there 3 or 4 days a week, and he loves it, and just to get out of the house. This is Blanche Lavoie, and this is my wife Jane, who was pregnant for our first daughter Kristen, who was born in '67. And Jane used to help out as an assistant, do everything in the office, and eventually, and there's myself. Okay, now, this is a picture that was taken right after Kristen was, maybe she's 6 months old.
No, I think she's about 2.
My dad, myself,
Big baby.
my mother, my sister Janet, who married Stan Berba, who was a dentist, who was a roommate of my brother at Georgetown. This is my brother Bob. And here's my daughter Kristen. The picture was damaged. I couldn't fix it any better than this, and my wife Jane.
Janet and Stan have a son who's a dentist as well, who married a dentist.
So many
And Bob had 2 children, and one is a hygienist who taught hygiene in Texas, at a dental school in Texas. And she now practices in a private dental office. Now, in 1971, I outgrew my place where I was. It was a very small office at 12 Amherst Street. So I needed to move, so I moved to 61 Amherst Street, and there was a lot there, empty lot. So this is my daughter Kristen, doing the first shovelful before we built the office. I think, Ruth, you remember that? Right, you remember that. Now, there's the office being built, and this is my son Neil, who's sitting right here. And Kristen. This is before Tara was born. Now, this is the equipment, maybe I would say, in the mid-'80s. You can see I still have the original Ritter chair right there. I don't have it anymore. This is a new modern chair. As you can see, we had carpeting in those days. We don't have carpeting anymore in the operatories. The colors were kind of wild. And the X-ray was in the wall here between the operatories. Go ahead. Now, if someone was to ask me what was the the product that was most influential and did the most for patients during my whole practice, you know, discounting digital, discounting computers, discounting everything, I would have to say it was floss, dental floss. And the reason is, in the mid-70s, I went to a dental meeting up in Whitefield, at the branch. In fact, that building's just been open again. It's the Mountain View House, and you probably saw it in the paper this Sunday. We had a speaker. His name was Bob Barkley. He was a dentist from the Midwest. And he had a program that you would bring into your office where all new patients went through 5 sessions of flossing before you even looked at them. He taught them how to floss. And at that time, we had, I would say, you know, every child that I saw had cavities on all their teeth. Every patient I saw had gum disease, perio, loose teeth, you know, a lot of problems that I could not solve myself. I just could not solve myself. There was nothing I could do to convince these people to floss or to brush. So we put these patients on this program, and the very first visit, we had a phase contrast microscope. And I would go in and take a little bit of the plaque from in between the teeth, put it on a microscope slide, and have them look at it. And when they saw all those bugs wiggling around, they would either faint, or they would go, oh my God, that's in my mouth. And we had them flossing. I'm telling you, we had them flossing. And within 3 weeks, there was no more gingivitis, no more inflammation. All right, some patients we had to send to a periodontist, but we were able to do a lot for patients. And I would say that that was the most influential thing. I mean, the product that did the most in my practice. That's what it was dental floss. And we did this for about 5 years. Now, you know, you'd say, well, you know, some patients would come in and they wouldn't do it. They say, I'm not going to sit there and floss. I won't do it. And they would leave. But the ones that did, I still have them today. Many of them. And you know, they come in and their kids come in and they don't have cavities, their gums are perfect, you know, and this is really rewarding. And that's the product that did it right there, dental floss. You know, it doesn't, you know, you think it's such a simple thing, but at the time, nobody knew about it. Now,
See what happens when you floss, you're gonna nice it.
Tara came out of dental school, but she started, first of all, to become, what was it? It was an interior designer, right? What was the school we went to? I can't remember. It was in Nashua, Endicott College. And this is interesting because she couldn't get a job. And she was trained how to do interior design with a computer, and nobody around here was using a computer in those days. So she came to the office and said, you know, can I just work here, you know, this summer? You know, I said, sure. Because she had been an assistant in the past, you know, when she was in high school, and she worked, you know, a lot in the office, and she knew her way around.
And I think Nancy
Yep.
back there was
Nancy.
the one
Nancy
who
was
told me to go to
right there.
hygiene school.
Nancy started talking about her trips to Europe, and she was working in Europe, and Nancy came to Nashua in the summertime and would work for 2 or 3 weeks in my office. Well, you know, the other hygienist was on vacation. So that afternoon, Tyra says, how can I be a hygienist? And so I said, well, you know, you have to call, there's a school in Concord. So she did. She called the school in Concord and she said, guess what? We have an appointment for an interview tomorrow. Oh, really? Tomorrow? Okay. So we went up to Concord and she found out that she had to have certain subjects. She had to take courses. So Thursday she comes over, can I have $150? I need books. It's starting tomorrow. Okay? So she started working, going to school. She got into hygiene school, which was a 3-year program at the time. She went through hygiene school, and she actually came in and worked for me for 2 years. But at the beginning of that 2 years, she came up to me and said, how can I be a dentist? Oh, here we go again. So for 2 years, so for 2 years she went to UMass Lowell. She would come in the morning sometimes and she would do a couple of patients, and then she'd get in the car and go to classes and come back and do a couple of patients before 5 o'clock. Now this kid worked hard. I mean, So she got into dental school, went to University of Pittsburgh, and in 2002 graduated. And came home and had a baby almost right after she got home. So let's go on. So here's our sign over at the at 61 Amherst Street. And also, I don't want to forget Dr. LaValle. In 2000, I believe, Bob, you came into our practice, and you've been there since. You've come up. He has his own patients. He does mostly prosthetics. And it's great. You know, it's nice to have another guy in the office, because there's just so it's been really great.
You're the other guy.
This is our current reception room. We have a train, go back.
Ah,
Okay, go back. One more.
Okay.
Okay. We have a train up here that go around, it goes all the way around on the ceiling. Here's the other side, there's a children's corner. This is the renovation that we did when Tara came in. A lot of the chairs are the same, except we just had them redone. Changed the colors. You can see second operatory. Here's our hygiene room. Now this is a brand new operatory we just put in 4 months ago. You can see we have computers in every room.
This is state of the art.
Yeah, this is all state of the art, yeah. Here's another picture from another corner. Now, the drill. This is the drill. Believe it or not, my dad never had one of these, but you know, before the days when electricity was that, you know, when you could just plug anything into anything, you had electric everything. You had to learn how to use this with 1 foot, standing on 1 foot. Now, I never used it. This comes from, this was found in the trash, believe it or not. Someone was throwing this away, and a patient of mine drove by and spotted it and said, you know, this doesn't look like something you should throw in the trash. Maybe it has some value. When I looked at it, I said, yeah, you know, I'm not going to use it, but it does work. It needs a little grease and a new handpiece, but it does work. So let's go to the next one. Then the drill became electric. And this is the original piece that my dad had bought back in 1934. And it had this was the end of, this was the working part. Here's a drill bit we call a burr. And it had a latch type, and this thing was, you know, it was a rotary instrument. And it had, the nice thing about this is that it had a constant speed. You could keep it going faster or slower. Hygienists still use these, really, in one form or another. Go ahead. And then we got into the high speed, which is air driven, very, very fast, and it uses friction grip burrs, like that. This is a high magnified picture of a diamond burr, called, that we use. You know, it's part of the armamentarium that we use, but this is what it looks like. These are all little diamonds. All you ladies see where the diamonds go. How many diamonds in here? And of course now we have they're lit. They have lights on them, so you can see much better. And now this is Tyler, you can talk about this one.
This is my new electric handpiece, which maintains the torque and really high speed that can cut through enamel really fast. The only disadvantage is it's a larger handpiece than the air-driven, but cuts my speed down significantly. This is my electric handpiece again, and all my digital. It gets pretty confusing with all the computers that we have in our office, but there's one of them.
Now, when I first started, I saw a lot of these. These were Vulcanite dentures. This particular one had gold dust in it, and the gold dust was the more expensive one. And if you go to the next picture, you can see the pink rubber that was added in between. These were rubber, made out of rubber, and had gold clasps, and the more expensive one had the little pink, so it looked more natural. Now, the partials eventually went to titanium cast with acrylic, porcelain teeth or acrylic teeth. And this was much lighter. and it lasted longer and stronger. Go ahead. Now what we do is this particular one is the biggest problem with the lower dentures, it floats. And, you know, we don't do as many dentures as we used to. But I see a lot of patients that come in and they just can't keep the lower denture down. We have them use glue and you know, polygrip. You've seen the polygrip ads. So with this particular type of denture, we put in implants. We put 2 implants in, one on each side. Go to the next picture. And this is on the little model right here. You can see the implant is in the jawbone. And it takes about 6 months to assimilate, for the bone to grow into these areas. And then the denture goes in like this, snaps in place. And now the denture is perfectly strong, as you can see. In other words, the patient can chew meat, the denture doesn't move. So these are, you know, we're starting to do more and more of these, and I think that's really a great service for patients who don't have any ridges left. So, okay, now that'll take me to implants. You can see the implant is placed in the jawbone like this. This is the first stage, right in here. And then the second stage, we put these in abutments. Usually some are prefabricated and some are custom. So it all depends on an individual case. So in this particular case, we have 4. And if you go to the next picture, this is what they look like. Now, you look at this and say, oh, it must hurt. Well, this part right here, once you get to this stage, you don't even use Novocaine to finish it. It doesn't hurt. We just take these little covers off. They look like little manhole covers. Go ahead. And we place these and we screw them down into the implant. And this is what it looks like in the mouth. Okay, and this is what it looks like after you put the bridge in. So, and they last. That's the nice part. You know, they're very, very strong. And here's another picture showing an implant with a lower with a crown. There's a crown, but there are 2 crowns with implants. Okay. Now, radiography, X-rays. Go ahead. Here's a picture that we showed you at the beginning of the very first X-ray, which took a lot of radiation, and, you know, go ahead.
And the dentist didn't leave the room.
Yeah, the dentist didn't leave the room, and we didn't use lead aprons, and, you know, it was unbelievable. And long exposures, and it'd take all of these pictures for a full mouth, and it was a lot of radiation. And in 1966, I bought this machine. When I switched over from film to digital 10 years ago, this machine wouldn't work anymore because it was so low, the amount of radiation, it was at its lowest point. I had to have it repaired so that it could take a picture at the low point. It took a lot. And sometimes, if we expose the sensor, in other words, we replaced the sensor, we had instead of film, we used a sensor, and the sun should happen to hit the sensor, it would fire. That's how sensitive it was. So the X-rays that we take now is no different than going out in the sun for 10 minutes. Go ahead. One more picture. This is what they call a Panorex. This machine takes 1 full mouth X-ray in 1 shot. And there's very little radiation compared to taking the full mouth, and this is what we end up with. And I bought one of these in 1967. And my dad said I was wasting my money. But you know what? We did it, and once he saw how it worked, he said, we're going to do this for all our patients now. And that's what we did. Now, there's an X-ray that's covered with paper so that light can't hit it. And here's a digital sensor. That's the difference. And this takes, in order to expose this, 1/10 the radiation that this one takes. 1/10. So you can do a lot. And here is the machine that does it. And if you go to the next picture, it's a close-up. If you're going to take a film, you have to set it at this point, which is more radiation. And you set it at this point to take the digital radiograph. And this is what it looks like. Here is a monitor. I've got a really close-up here, but this is one of the monitors we have. This is the size of the picture. And I can take this picture and I can change the contrast. I can make it lighter, darker. If I'm not sure what's going on down here, I can enlarge that. So here I have something that's this size versus something this size that I can look at. so I can see more, see much more. Here's a picture showing decay, recurrent decay. That's why we take X-rays, so we can find decay. Doesn't mean these things hurt, but they're there. This is definitely going to start hurting. There's decay on the neck. We'll restore it. Okay. Now, you've all seen this. This is the old amalgam. I stopped using amalgam, I think it was when I moved to 61 Am Street. I used very, very little amalgam from then on. I always felt that, I just felt that it looked terrible. It was mixed with mercury, there was mercury involved. I just felt bad about putting that in patients' mouths, and then we had a new material such as Adaptic that came out at that time. And that eventually, we used to still have to cut the teeth the same way, but then when the new materials came out with bonding, we were able to cut much less tooth structure down, and take a look at the difference.
This is actually all porcelain that I made with one of my CEREC machines, which I take a tooth, take the silver filling out, I take images while the patient sits there, and that images go up on my computer, and I design the tooth right there, and it goes into the patient's mouth the same day. I think I have some, there's my...
That's the sensor, that's the camera, it's a 3D camera, actually. And there it is taking a picture, so instead of taking a rubber impression and then sending it to the lab and waiting 3 weeks, doing a temporary in the middle, in the meantime, and then having the patient come back and then give them Novocaine again, and then putting the crown in, we do it right there in the office on the screen. And this is the...
There's the tooth, and I outline the margins where I want the edge of the restoration to go. You can see there. And there's the tooth that the computer designs, and it mills it right there in the office while the patient waits. There's the milling chamber. Usually it takes about 10 minutes to mill.
And here is adaptation of that crown, you can see right in here.
And the old crown, you can see on the right of that where it's all metal underneath. Here's another before picture, after. And here's some of the other work that I do. I do a lot of cosmetic cases. So you can see here, this is, I believe, a crown case. Sometimes I do veneers. This is before, and then here's after. And you can see the difference. Here's another before picture, before I did the porcelain. And there's after.
That's a mirror, go back, that's a mirror right here that we placed in the cheek, so you can see the front of this tooth. You can see this big silver filling. Go ahead. And now you can see the difference. Now this is one of the big changes. Ever since the AIDS epidemic, this has really been a big change. Now, right over here there was a little container and there was solution in it. And you put the solution, you put the instruments in the solution, and then, 20 minutes later or 10 minutes later, right, Priscilla? How long were they in there? They weren't in there that long. The instruments would come out, and maybe you had 5 sets of instruments, maybe you had 5 sets of instruments. And in the 70s and the 80s, this was an autoclave. Now you notice over here I had my developer, my automatic developer. I had my kitchen right here, right next to it, and no gloves, and that this was a step above that first one, but now this is what we do. This is a go back.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. The red area are where the dirty instruments go, and after they're processed, they are stored in the blue area. So go ahead, why don't you explain this?
So these are all the dirty instruments going into the red area. Then they go into the ultrasonic, so they're all cleaned off. And they're dried in the dryer. Then they're wrapped up and put into the sterilizer. And then when they're clean, they go above the sterilizer, and everybody knows this is the dirty area, this is the clean area, and there's no cross-contamination with all of this.
Okay.
Okay?
This is our Christmas party over at, what's the name of the place?
Cucina
Cucina
Toscana.
Toscana. And this is Brenda
At the front desk.
at the front desk. And this is Dr. LaValle in his operatory,
Making a denture, I think.
working on a denture. Yeah. And this is Karen Morse at the computer. You see we have, even our appointment book is all computerized, which makes it a lot easier. And here is Tara, along with Marion in the back, and Daphne, and working on a patient. And they let me in and let take a
I
picture.
wasn't very happy there because my patient was sedated. And I had been working on it for 4 hours. I don't even think I took one break. And I said, why are you doing this right now? And there's Lori. Lori's one of our hygienists, and you'll notice that she's wearing loops on her eyes. It's hard to tell, but that magnifies everything so she can sit upright and see everything in a wider field of view. That's one of the new things. I think they require that in hygiene school now. There's Gina.
That's Gina.
She was here with her baby a little while ago. There's
There's Daphne.
Technology.
Now, new things.
We've gone over some of our technology, like the digital X-rays and the crowns. This is our Zoom whitening light, where we can whiten teeth in about an hour and a half. Here's my new laser that I just bought this year, where I can cut tissue without a scalpel, cut tissue with no bleeding, do any type of surgery I want to do. And it's great. And again, here's the CEREC machine that I showed you, where I make all my crowns and onlays.
Now, the future. My son Keith is now, he just started dental school. He's going to Harvard. Right now he's at the Harvard Medical School for 2 years. And he's due to graduate in 2011. And that's the last picture.
The future
And
dentist.
This is the future dentist. This is Luke. This is Logan. This is Molly. And this is my daughter Kristen, the one that did the first shovel folder. And that's it.
Very good.
Entertaining some questions.
I'd like to
Yes.
know if Sarah gets Carol offered $250 for your practice. You gave her $150 for everything else.
Yeah.
That's true. Yes,
Doctor,
Rudy.
did you use gas for dental work
No.
ever? Or
No.
did your dad?
No, I did at one time.
You did?
Nitrous oxide, yes, I did at one time. When I first moved into 61 Anna Street area, I did.
Mhm.
So I have training in nitrous oxide, but we don't incorporate it
No,
into our office.
So you use mostly Novocaine? and-
yes.
Yeah.
No, just to elaborate on what Rudy said, it's fairly common to hear people now, even for just a standard old filling, say, yeah, put me to sleep. Now, that's not nitrous oxide, that's something else, or is there
Well,
a...
there's IV sedation, where you have an IV right then and
Maybe
there.
that's...
I do a lot of oral sedation where the patient takes something similar to Valium beforehand. Somebody drives them in, and a lot of times they'll sleep right through my procedure. I try to do as much as I can in that amount of time, and then they need a ride home.
Okay, so the nitrous oxide, the side effects probably weren't worth it.
Viability.
Liability.
Mhm.
When I used it, I had a couple of very interesting things happen, where women would fly off the handle and scream, and then, and we finally give them oxygen, bring them back, and they'd say, oh, that was the greatest thing. And, I said, I don't need this.
Is that, oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I really feel that if the patient really needs that, there are some dentists that will do that, but I won't do it anymore.
An interesting note on your little foot pedal drill.
Yeah,
That was used by Bob Hope in one of his Western comedy movies years
is that
ago.
right?
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, I had one of these in the service. Now, that was in 1964, 65. I was in the SAC, Strategic Air Command. I used to have to get up at 2 in the morning for the drill to get on the plane. And we get on the plane, I had one of these in a big box. I never opened the box the whole time I was in the service. I have no idea how to use it. And
Bob Hope did.
to be able to do that, and it's, you know, very difficult. You can imagine standing on 1 foot, running that thing, and trying to balance a handpiece and a patient that's moving, and you're standing up and trying to do something with
So
precision.
you actually had to pump it with 1 foot, like.
Pump it with 1 foot, that's right, and that would get the drill to
That's why it
move.
stayed in the box.
And that's why a lot of people had extractions, I'm sure.
That's right.
You couldn't have got the drill spinning fast enough, I would think, to, well,
Well,
you know, to.
Well,
I don't know.
decay is very soft, so.
yeah, you could remove decay very easily with that. You know.
What is the gold, the
This
brass
is a
or
compressor.
copper?
This is a compressor. You would pump this up and it would, you know, and you could use, well, I don't know what you would use it for, but this was for dentistry.
This is dental
It says,
manufacturing.
There's a dental manufacturer,
Kerr.
Detroit Dental Manufacturing Company. Kerr, made, trade name for Kerr, K-E-R-R, which is another name.
You
I'm not
think,
sure what you would use this for, maybe for an air syringe.
I was thinking that, or to, if you pump it up good, you'd power one of those
Maybe,
early
yeah,
air drills
yeah.
or
Could be.
something.
Could be,
No, never get it out of that.
no.
No,
You'd have- yeah,
I don't
you'd
know.
have to have- yeah, you'd have to- maybe it was just.
Maybe it's like you say, the syringe.
You couldn't pump that.
This was another item that someone picked up,
Yeah.
you know, that was in the trash and thought I could use it, so I polished it up the best I could.
Looks pretty.
You know what it was used for? Paul?
No.
No.
I have no clue. But it couldn't be for a rotor, I mean, an air rotor, that's for sure.
No, not with the amount of power that you need for that.
Is there one question, is something about, I don't know if it's common now, or it was just a development that didn't catch on. There's a way to use almost like a similar thing to sandblasting using baking soda. Does that take the place of drilling?
It's air
Yeah.
abrasion.
Air
machine.
Oh, abrasion,
Air
yeah.
abrasion,
We
yes.
have to add that.
Yeah, we have one of those,
Mhm.
and I've used it a lot. I use it mostly now to clean out the inside of crowns before I cement them. You can do small pits, you know,
Good for
sealing, when I seal teeth, you can use it for sealing teeth. But to sit there and to try to use that to do a complete filling, first of all, it won't take decay out, so you still have to use a drill.
Oh,
You know, and there are lasers, hard tissue lasers out, and I sat down one day in Worcester because the patient didn't show up. We went to a demonstration, the patient didn't show up, and so I volunteered to have, a hard tissue laser do a filling without Novocaine. And I'll tell you, I sailed out of that chair. It was, at the end, when I finished, at the end of that procedure, the guy looked at me and he said, "What would you think?" I said, "I'm not buying one of these." I said, "If it's going to hurt me, and I'm very sensitive, it's going to hurt my patients." And that hasn't been perfected either. But using the air abrasion, was pretty good. I was able to do a lot, especially with children.
small
like that.
stuff, yeah.
Small stuff, yeah. It doesn't make any sound. So, rather than the drill makes more sound.
Yeah, those high-pitched whistling ones,
That's right.
and some used to have water coming out,
Yeah.
they still do that?
Oh, the Cavatron.
I guess to cool it or something,
For
right?
cleaning.
The cleaning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
that cleans the debris off.
Uh-huh,
Dentistry has gone in the last 20 years. It's unbelievable. We had a computer in 1985 to run the office, and then we've had a lot of computers since then. And I don't know how it would work without a computer. Everything is so organized.
And the lasers now, if I put a laser in somebody's mouth, I can kill all the bacteria in an area. And that's going to be the big wave in the future, the lasers.
Oh.
Really going to change. I just took a course on it actually. Great. Well, thank you for coming.
refreshments in the dining room.
No sugar, right? 'Cause